Hello, everyone, and welcome to No Offseason, presented by MassMutual. I'm Zena.
And I'm Chantel Jennings.
Today on the show, before the WNBA season kicks off in a few weeks, we are picking our top 3 most intriguing players for the upcoming season. Who are the players you need to know about? Who are poised to make a big difference? Ben and Sabreena are going to join me to run through it all. But first, Chantel is here with us. What's up, Chantel? Been a while.
Hey, Zena. It has. I know. I'm climbing out of my post Final Four hole and becoming human again. So it's good to be here.
What does life look like after the Final Four, but before the next college season?
Well, I'm taking a little time for myself here.
Good.
But no, just we'll talk about the transfer portal today, but it's the news never stops, movement never stops. There's so much to track this offseason with the house settlement, revenue share, the transfer portal. It feels like college hoops is changing by the day. So it's there's no rest for the weary here, Zena.
Okay.
We just keep pushing forward.
I see. I do hope that you did take a little bit of time to rest because it was a crazy culmination to the season. But as you mentioned, there's still so much going on. And as soon as the season ended, of course, some trotted off to the WNBA draft, but there are many that are trotting off to new places, new faces, and new schools. So that's why we got you here today. We're going to do a little NCAA transfer portal corner. We've seen your messages, folks. We've seen your DMs, your BlueSky tweets, or whatever you want to call them. We've seen you guys ask, I can't wait for you guys to talk about what's happening with Malaysia, what's happening with Olivia, what's happening, et cetera. But before we get into any of that, we got to back up a little bit and talk about the transfer portal overall. Give us a brief explainer, Chantel. What is the actual transfer portal? Physically, what does it look like? How does it work? It's not like a door that people show up and they just open up another one and they're in another school. How does this even work? How long does it all last? Give us the whole background.
So it's basically an Excel spreadsheet online, sort of, except with more security, I would say.
Okay.
That's run by the NCAA. It's like a compliance database. And if you are at a school and you want to transfer, you enter your name into this. I'm sure it's a little more complicated than that. You have to go through compliance at your school. But you go into this portal and then coaches are literally on it, just refreshing it constantly and waiting for new names to pop up. And there's sort of third-party sites that have aggregated this information now too. But it's just a portal for coaches. And they can get some extra info on players. There are different tags you can put. So do not contact means that programs cannot contact that player. Most players are just, they don't have that tag. But the ones who do sort of have a sense of where they want to go and they want to be more in the driver's seat of who they're reaching out to versus having coaches reach out to them. But it's existed in this form since 2018. And over the years, there have been different legislative changes and rule changes. This year, the window is shorter, so it's about a 30-day window. So it opened on March 24th. It closes today, April 22nd, when our listeners might be listening to this show. So athletes can jump into the portal during that time in order to not lose a season of eligibility and have automatic eligibility at their next school. But yeah, it's, there's pros and cons to it. It's different for every sport. College football actually has 2 windows. So they have one right around the college football playoffs and then a 15-day window during spring football, which is something I think a lot of college basketball coaches would like to see, maybe more than one window so that it's not right smack dab in the middle of the Sweet 16. But otherwise, Yeah, it's just a big spreadsheet.
It's so funny because when I think portal, I think something technical, someone's going to you walk into a space and you're zapped into a New Jersey, and then you walk out.
Stranger
and you're
Things, the portal. You're
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You're going to the upside down, and now you're at this new school. But yes, it is a spreadsheet. Okay, got it. And this, I know we've talked about this before too on the show, but you jump into the portal during that 30-day window, but you can make your choice pretty much whenever, but you want to make it quickly because a lot of these students have to get to their schools to potentially start summer classes, to transfer credits. They've got to be in a little bit of a hurry, especially at this point of the year when summer is approaching and then you have to start the new academic year.
Well, and then you have to, consider roster spots, scholarship spots. It's not like every college basketball team has an unlimited number of scholarships and roster spots for players. And so you see some people making quicker decisions simply because it's like, certain teams, it's all in flux, right? Because there's certain teams where we're like, oh, they don't have any spots open to pull any transfers. And then it's like, oh, they lost like 5 players to the portal. So now they do. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's always in flux, but that's another part of it. Obviously, the academic part of it, getting settled, making your decision quickly, I think is something a lot of athletes really want to do. But then you also have to consider like there are the formalities of like, if you want to stay on scholarship, you have to go to a program that has scholarships available and roster spots available. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Remember, guys, these are student athletes. I know sometimes that kind of gets lost in the void. Students first, then athletes.
It's the Yale basketball alum reminding us of this. Yes.
Students first. But you talk about scholarships. That's free money to go to school. How does money play into this? That's not necessarily scholarship dollars in terms of like NIL and boosters potentially paying for student athletes to show up at these schools.
Yeah, so the House settlement has been pushed back a little bit. So we have a little bit of a window here where there's, like I said, it's going to be in flux probably for a good portion of the summer. But there's NIL money, which can come from different deals that are being made. And then obviously revenue share is going to become a big part of this and sort of what that looks like. I don't think anyone really knows so far. Like, I talked to coaches and everyone's kind of waiting to see who moves first on this. Like Georgia came out and sort of said, this is what we're going to do. And other schools have followed, at least quietly saying like, this is what we're going to do. But I talked to other coaches and they're saying, internally, I've been told that we're going to get as much as the men's team is getting for our revenue share. But they haven't publicly said that. And I'm like, okay, but why not? Why have you publicly stated this? So it'll be interesting. But yeah, so there's the revenue sharing, there's the NIL money. All of those are sort of revenue streams for these athletes. And then obviously on top of the scholarship, which they'll be getting for going to school.
Okay. Now let's get into some of these players because, of course, we've already seen some big names, land at new schools. What are some of the bigger names that we've already discussed and have already made their decision and committed somewhere new?
Cody McMahon was really the first player to surprise a lot of us, the Ohio native. She's from Centerville, I believe. She had gray shirted at Ohio State, so basically enrolled early, sat out, like was a part of the team, but couldn't actually do a lot of the stuff with the team. Like she felt like a Buckeye through and through, like forever. So I was really surprised to see her jump into the portal. She landed at Ole Miss. Which is a good fit. I think it'll be interesting to sort of see how it changes her defensive game, especially in this last year before the WNBA, what that does for her draft stock. Tania Latson, a huge name to jump into the portal, the nation's #1 scorer. She became someone who instantly was like, okay, Tania sort of feels like a domino, right? Like where she goes can sort of impact where other players go. Ended up at South Carolina. Interesting fit, I think, simply because how that will change her role, sort of what she's played at FSU the last few years as someone who's taken a ton of shots and played a lot of minutes. And obviously the South Carolina system doesn't have hasn't had that featured guard that we've seen in recent years. And so
it's always been a big.
It's always been a big, and it's always been sort of more, in the 20 to 26 minute range, right? Like everyone's playing a little more even minutes. No one's playing like 35 minutes a game for the Gamecocks. And so I'm curious how that's going to also change the Gamecocks, right? And we saw perhaps a domino effect of this. Mylacia Fulwiley enters the portal. We don't know where she is headed as of Monday afternoon. But I think she's a player that a lot of people are really curious to see go. Another player we talked about, Kate Koval, the talented freshman big from Notre Dame, did a big piece on her earlier this year, but she had talked a lot about the support and family environment that she had found at Notre Dame. With so much turnover on that roster, and we'll get to Olivia Miles shortly here, what you're seeing is that these aren't just decisions based off of minutes, because if that were the case, USC wouldn't look the way it does. Notre Dame wouldn't look the way it does because so many minutes were opening up there and yet players were leaving. And, I think in the early days of the portal, everyone was like, oh, if a bunch of players leave a program, that must sort of be red flags. I don't think it is as much anymore. I don't feel that way. Like, I look at different programs like UCLA, which lost 6 players to the portal. I don't necessarily say like, oh, this is a program we really need to start like looking at closely inherently because of portal numbers, because it's like everyone sort of has different reasons. And where you're looking at it, it's like Kate Koval, for instance, go back to Notre Dame, is she ended up at LSU. We've written a lot and had the podcast about her family. Her older brother's at LSU. Like, this is a fit that makes sense to me. She wants to go and work with the big coaches there, work with Simone Augustus, work with Bob Starkey. That makes sense to me. And also be close to family. And so I think you can kind of look at all of these different programs and say that it's just sort of like nature of the business now. Like, these programs are going to turn over, and it's going to be really rare to have a program like UConn where the only player jumping into the portal is Cadence Samuels. But I'd say the last name that we should mention, obviously, is Olivia Miles. I think when we've talked about her on the podcast, it was like, is she going to stay or go? Meaning, is she going to stay at Notre Dame or is she going to go pro? We should have said, is she going to stay or go pro or portaling? Because the option was C. And she landed at TCU, which is,
Yeah.
a program that in recent years has sort of made its living on transfers. And so, yeah, it's just been a really active time for the quote unquote postseason.
I know you mentioned that having a lot of players leave a school isn't necessarily in your mind a red flag. And you did mention Kate Koval. I would say Notre Dame is still going to be on my list in terms of I got to figure out what's going on in South Bend, because the amount of school players that left, maybe not Kate Koval, because I think you're right, her story does align with where she ended up and landed, but a lot of players leaving in what seemed like a right on the cusp championship contender. I want to circle back, though, to Mylasia Fulwiley, because she's probably the biggest name that we don't know where she's going to go. You and I had this conversation about Tanaya Latson committing to South Carolina would have an impact on Mylasia Fulwiley, who was poised to be the guard star. The way that she plays, the flair with which she plays, everything about her game was very ball dominant and would require her to be the focal point from a guard position, which didn't really fit the South Carolina system. Then you insert someone like Tanaya Latson, which also is a ball dominant type of guard, very much like a Mylasia Fulwiley. So I was there like, this is probably going to end up with Mylasia leaving. It makes sense that not having two of them on the same team would make sense. But now it's a question of like, where can Mylasia go in which her type of play is appreciated? And not that it wasn't appreciated at South Carolina, but elsewhere that it can also be appreciated and also put on a pedestal a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, if you get into the business of like making these guesses and stuff and where someone's going to go, I think there's a lot of fits where she makes sense. Like, she's a two-way player. She's exciting. I think at South Carolina, there were times when it felt like maybe she got pulled quickly after mistakes. And it's like, maybe this is just someone who needs to play through the mistakes a little bit more. But also maybe, this was stuff that they had talked about in practice. Like, we're not in every South Carolina practice, so we don't know. But right. I could see her, like, you talk to coaches across the country about Mylasia, and I remember we did this, I forget if it was at the beginning of the season, just like scouting top players for this year, scouting the top 25 players coming into the year. And every coach that I asked about Mylasia was just like effusive in their praise of her ability, her athleticism, her speed, her quickness, she makes the kind of plays that are game changers and that are electrifying. Yep. And for programs, South Carolina is a program that has a ton of eyes on it because of what they've done in recent seasons with the national championships and all of the talent that Dawn Staley has brought into South Carolina. Mylasia is the kind of player that, because of who she is and the talent that she has, like, wherever she goes, that program is going to have eyes on it. Like, she could end up somewhere, right, totally random that we're not expecting. And we're going to watch that team next year because Mylasia Fulwiley is on it. Like, I don't know. I think this could be really interesting. Like, there are a lot of programs in the SEC, like power conference teams make a ton of sense. Winston Gandy went to Grand Canyon. I'm not saying that's a place that would make a ton of sense because they're not a power conference school, but like, she has a relationship with the coach. Perhaps that would be a potential landing spot that she's thinking about. There are programs across the country that have ample minutes available that are, in need of talented, excellent guard play. I think of a school like USC. Like that's a program that needs some guards. That's a program that suffered some exits to the portal. I think of, and I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head, the roster and scholarship numbers for all these schools, but I think across the SEC, there's a bunch of programs that have sort of seen her up close, the skill, the talent, the electrifying moves, and sort of been on the opposite end of those highlight reels that go viral on Twitter. And they might be thinking to themselves, like, it'd be kind of nice to have that about our team,
Right,
So
right.
it'll be interesting to see where she does land up because she feels like the last Sarah Williams. I'm really curious to see where she goes. Obviously, former Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. She can move the needle a lot. Gianna Neepkins at Utah, great three-point shooter. I think she could be a player who elevates teams a lot. But Mylasia Fulwiley feels like a player that literally, it doesn't matter where she ends up next year. We're going to watch that team.
I absolutely agree with that. And I know with the Sarah Williams aspect, there's been the rumors of UConn being interested in her. Of course, players have been following her on Instagram, so a lot of tingles are popping up in terms of where she might end up. But yes, I think Mylasia and Sarah Williams are going to be the biggest dominoes. You wrote a piece that everyone should check out. When Mylasia commits to a place, we're going to have a bigger piece on the winners and the losers. Tell us a little bit about that before we get out of here.
Yeah, just looking at the programs that, like I said, no coach is caught off guard now when 1, 2, 3, 4 players go into the portal. And you reload that way by either bringing in freshmen or bringing in transfers of your own or sort of making do with what you had. And so I took a look at programs that have sort of won this transfer portal season or lost based off of both internally what they gained and what they lost to the portal. And so there are some programs that feel like really obvious picks here. And then there's some picks that I made. I'll tease one right now. Like, I think Washington is a big winner here. Tina Langley did well in the portal this year to bring in players around El Ladine. Like, they are filling out, and it's not just these teams where it's, Ole Miss like landed Cody McMahon. Like, yes, good job. You got someone everyone wanted, and the Portalista, as Coach Yo goes by, did it again. Like, we shouldn't be surprised. She's made a living there for sure. But I think like a program like Washington, where you're sort of in the back of the Big Ten, and she added pieces that'll help them compete better in their second year in the Big Ten. So that's just a little preview of what's to come at The Athletic.
Okay, well, we'll definitely have to go check that out. Thank you, Chantel, for breaking us down into the portal, into the upside down. No, I'm joking. I'm just going to name it that for myself. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. I got Sabreena Merchant and Ben Pickman joining me for the next block. Stay tuned. Now let's turn our attention to the WNBA season that is literally right upon us. It's tipping off in just a few weeks on May 16th. And we're going to go back and forth between Ben and Sabreena on the most intriguing players. And I know you're like, intriguing, what does that mean? Sometimes we always talk about the best players or the most improved players, or we have these particular labels, and it often goes to just the stars, but for the purposes of what they're doing on the stat sheets. And it doesn't encompass all of the ways in which a star or the complement to a star or any type of player across the board can help a team get better, help a WNBA season's be more interesting. It's the intriguing players. Not only could they be potentially stars, but they also could be a game changer for their league, for their team, for their season. So we're going to go through this round robin style in no specific order. Sabreena, let's start with you. Who are you watching closely this season as it starts up, and who do you think is poised to make a big difference this year?
Yeah, so my first pick is actually somebody who I think would belong on a best player list too. But I think her season is just going to be super, super important for, you guessed it, the local team out here, the Los Angeles Sparks, and that is Kelsey Plum. Just the arc of what has happened to her since leaving Vegas, coming to Los Angeles, just informs so many things. You've got number one, the Sparks traded the number 2 pick together. So as we're looking at Dominique Malanga, we're looking at Kelsey Plum and thinking, was this a worthwhile trade for the Los Angeles Sparks, right?
Right. Huge.
Also, the Sparks have traded away their 2026 first-round pick, so they are very much in the camp of we need to make the playoffs now. And so Kelsey Plum's success is of massive importance to not only the Los Angeles Sparks, but also the Seattle Storm, who own that pick for the 2026 draft.
Wow.
The Seattle Storm, who coincidentally also already have Dominic Malanga. So I think just in terms of Seattle shorting Los Angeles' future, what Kelsey can do for the Sparks, this is a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 4 years. Is very eager to get back into the national conversation of the WNBA. It's a big market. They haven't been able to really tap into the overwhelming boom that has happened with women's basketball over the last couple seasons because the team just hasn't been as good. But I think seeing what Kelsey can be outside of the Aces system, outside of playing with Chelsea Gray and Jackie Young and Asia Wilson, what does that look like again? I'm just fascinated to know what she looks like as more of a number one option, if she can lead the Sparks back to the postseason, how she plays with Terica Hamby again, after they were such good partners on the Las Vegas Aces. There's just so many things in terms of the present of the Sparks, the future of the Sparks, future of the Storm that just fascinate me about. And it all sort of comes back to how well does Kelsey Plum perform this year.
I love that pick, especially for what you mentioned about how does Kelsey Plum look outside of the Aces. I think she was always a star within that quartet in Las Vegas. However, it's not even just being a star on the court. How does her brand blossom off the court in Los Angeles as the leader of this team? Yes, great pick. All right, Ben, your go. 1 for 1. Let's see where we're going.
I mean, I love that we didn't tell each other who we're picking here, and this speaks to how well we know each other because the first person on my list is the other big name player in that 3-team transaction. It is Jewell Loyd, who is, of course, backfilling, replacing
Perfect.
Kelsey Plum on the Las Vegas Aces, right?
I love this.
Yeah, I mean, again, a lot of the same things that Sabreena mapped out of a star player moving into a new role. And this is Jewell Loyd's first opportunity to play for a different team other than the Seattle Storm. And specifically, like the last 2 years of her career, she had the highest usage rate of her career. And she had to do so much for every bit of the Seattle Storm organization, from helping to design the practice facility and being involved in that process to leading an offense and leading the team more broadly. But what we saw last year was not a great year from Jewell Loyd. And yes, an all-star, an Olympian, but she shot just 27.4% from 3 last season. It's her lowest total since her rookie year. She shot a career low, 36% from the field. Like, she takes a lot of mid-range 2-point attempts. Not exactly the most popular shot or most efficient shot in basketball more broadly. And so, of course, now she's joining a team with 3 other legitimate all-stars. Stars, I mean, the highest level, Asia Wilson, Jackie Young, and Chelsea Gray. Chelsea Gray, obviously, great and unrivaled. Asia Wilson, a historic season last year. And Jackie Young, a great player in and of herself. Like, how does Jewell Loyd fit with those players? She seems super excited to be with the Las Vegas Aces. All 4 of those players share the same representation. I think that is, important as well as a piece of context. Seemingly workouts are going well this offseason, but like, is she going to be the difference to get Las Vegas back to, the very top of the mountain here in the WNBA? Because I think sneakily people are kind of sleeping a little bit on the Las Vegas Aces heading into this year. It's not that far off from them being, WNBA champions and being this dynasty in the league. So Jewell Loyd could be the difference in them getting back to the title, or if she doesn't fit in as well, maybe the Aces are, again, just a semifinalist and out.
Yeah, this feels like a very understated major move that the Las Vegas Aces just picked up Jewell Loyd. I mean, we'll see what happens. But yes, the Aces are known for performing well when there's a chip on their shoulder and a target on their back. We'll see what happens. I love this synchrony between the two of you here, Jewell Loyd and Kelsey Plum. All right, let's go to round 2 for most intriguing player. Ben, I'll let you start this time.
Yeah, second player is, again, another all-star, multi-time all-star on my list, who satisfies a lot of the same things I mapped out of. If she takes the leap, her team can really take the leap. And the question is she going to go up another level? And that is Rhyne Howard of the Atlanta Dream. Again, 2 all-star appearances in her first 3 seasons. We've seen Atlanta have a busy offseason, adding Bree Jones and Brittany Griner, 2 multi-time all-stars to kind of surround Rhyne Howard and Alicia Gray. The Dream clearly want to take the next step and build, this new era of the franchise. And the question is, or what I think is the determining factor in if they are able to be a top 4 seed or even better, is Rhyne Howard going to be not just an all-star level player, but a legitimate top 10 player in the WNBA. Because if you look at her production through her first 3 seasons, it's pretty consistent year to year, right? She averaged around 16 points as a rookie, 17 and a half last year, 17 or 17 and a half in 23, 17.3 in 24. Her field goal percentage, pretty consistent. Like her per 100 possession numbers, very similar year after year. If she's able to take the leap, like the Atlanta Dream will be able to take the leap. And if she is just the kind of player she has been through her first 3 seasons, which is a very good player, an all-star, a multi-time all-star, then they're still just going to be, I think, what they have been in the past. And Atlanta is looking to take this next step, and it's with Colonel Smesko, a new coach. Can he bring the best out of Ryan Howard and lead Atlanta to kind of take the next step too?
Ryan Howard feels like a superstar that just kept getting blocked in the playoffs, just kept getting there, but not being able to take that next step. It's interesting you said Ryan Howard. I also think Alicia Gray is an intriguing player alongside her. I think she blossomed a little bit, especially people got to know her name at WNBA All-Star last year. We'll see what happens down in Atlanta under some new leadership. Sabreena, we're doing really well here. What's your number 2 pick here?
Well, speaking of synchronicity, my number 2 pick was also Ryan Howard.
Good work, Sabreena. Good work.
There you go.
Let's hope that this diverges for the third player. But, going off of what Ben said, I think Atlanta obviously had this very noisy offseason with the hiring of Carl Smesko, bringing in 2 star frontcourt players. To me, like, this all works if Ryan Howard can be the perimeter superstar to allow Bree Jones and Brittany Griner to do what they do inside. Like, when we talked to Carl Smesko after he got hired, it was very much he was brought in to help optimize Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray. And Alicia Gray is obviously a wonderful player too. Ryan Howard is only 24 years old. She's very much on the upward trajectory of her career, I think, because she's been in the league for 3 seasons. Like, she's as old as some players who were literally drafted this year. So it just kind of masks how long she's been in the league because, she's already 2-time All-Star, but like, she is at the point of her career where she should be getting better. And like Ben said, she's kind of been the same player all 3 seasons, but she has the capability to be like an outright superstar. I think we all believe that potential is within her. So to me, like, Atlanta only works if Ryan Howard is a megastar, and otherwise they're just another first round out to me.
Stamp that. Atlanta only works if Ryan Howard is a megastar. I love that. And that's very, very true. Okay. Pick 2 for both teams. Lining up here. I love this. I love this.
Good work, Sabreena. Good work.
Great job. Great job, guys. All right, let's roll on to number 3. Ben, hit me.
Okay, I'm cheating with my third pick, admittedly, and I'm going to name 3 players, but it's really all in one bucket. I'm going to go...
Now, those aren't the rules.
No, but that's okay. I'm going to the Minnesota Lynx, and I'm picking their 3 young players of Diamond Miller, Alyssa Peely, and Dorka Juhas. I'll focus on Diamond Miller, but it's all under the same guise of Minnesota is this championship contender, yet again, having made the finals last year. And their team is built on experience and veterans, and that seems to be the core that they are... that this era is built around. And the question is, will any of those young players have roles on this year's team? Like, are any of them going to develop into legitimate rotation players both this year and in the future? Right? Diamond Miller, I think, is the headliner here. Number 2 pick in 2023 draft. As a rookie, she started 32 games. She averaged 12.5 points. She took more than 11 shots, more than 10 shots per game. Last year, she really never... seemingly got settled in the rotation. She dealt with a right knee injury that really limited, her role. She played in just 21 games. She made just 4 starts. It wasn't a great year for Diamond Miller. And so now the question is, what is her role going to be this year? And it's the same thing with Dorka Juhas, who played a lot as a rookie and didn't really play a lot last year. And Alyssa Peely, who never really played a ton last year, averaging just 6.5 minutes per game. Again, this is a veteran team, and we know that this is a very good coaching staff. It's, will any of these players develop? Because it's not just a question of this year, but next year with so many vets being free agents. These are cost control players who are still under contract. Seemingly, you would want to develop those players and have them be foundational pieces. And or with 2 expansion teams coming into the WNBA, maybe these are players that either other teams take and or if they are the players left, you will need to rely on one of these three or all of these three in the next iteration of your franchise. So, yes, I have bent the rules. I am sorry for that, but I think it is okay in this exercise of Minnesota's young trio. Like, what are we getting out of them
Yeah.
in 2025?
I'll let you skirt the rules on this one. I think this is a very fair point because, of course, we saw Atlanta Smith go down in the WNBA finals for a bit and Dorka Uhouse having to come in and play some significant minutes. And that is going to be important that they have that depth at that position. And then Alyssa Peely had some great games last year, had some kind of breakout games once in a while, but we can't have her be a mascot, essentially. People that are cheering for her to come in and as a rookie and, make a few points. She needs to be a legitimate rotation player in her sophomore year. And I think Diamond Miller, she had a role before, getting injured. Would you not say that, Ben?
No, she absolutely did. I think now the question is, she had a role in her rookie season.
The question
is now in year 3, like where does she fit into the general calculus of that franchise?
General calculus. You better say that, Ben. Okay, Sabreena.
I didn't do very well in general calculus.
All good. Well, you did well adding those 3 into this conversation. Sabreena, let's figure it out. What's your third pick?
Yeah, so I actually picked the player who was drafted after Diamond Miller in the 2023 WNBA draft, and that is Maddie Siegrist, because I'm looking at the Dallas Wings, and I love the guard room that they have assembled now with Arike Gumbawale, Paige Beckers. They added Dejanay Carrington and Ty Harris during the offseason as well. I don't really know what's happening in that front court. And I look at how Paige Beckers succeeded at UConn. It was always with a very skilled, versatile big, whether that was Aaliyah Edwards, Sarah Strong. And I'm not seeing that really in what they have in Tiara McCowan or even Alyssa Smith, who, struggled pretty mightily in her last season in Indiana. So I look at a player like Maddie Siegrist. Can she be this front court pick and pop complement to what Paige Beckers is trying to accomplish in Dallas? Can she provide a little bit of versatility to space the floor, to give Arike and Paige driving lanes to the basket? She was, I think, on track to maybe even being the most improved player last year before she got hurt and had to miss a big chunk of the season for the Wings. I want to know if that offensive efficiency is something that happened because she was on a bad team and just needed to soak up minutes, or if she can actually be a productive player on a really good team because, most everything is going to change in the WNBA this offseason, right? Everybody is going to be free agents. That's a veteran after 2025. Maddie is on a rookie contract. She is somebody that Dallas has control over going forward. She and Paige can sort of be this inside-outside tandem moving forward. And I'm just fascinated to know if the player that we saw for stints last season in Dallas is a real building block going forward.
Now, I'm curious. Maddie Siegrist, of course, she was a forward at Villanova. And in that system, I felt her more so as of a 3-guard, wing forward, more so than in the post, like front court properly. She's about, 6'1", 6'2"? Would you say
Maddie
that she
Siegrist is listed at 6'2", yeah.
Okay. So do you think that's enough size for what Dallas has traditionally had in terms of how they like to show up in the front court?
Well, I think the way Dallas traditionally has been is really not worked out all that well with all those big
Kalani Brown and Tiara McCown. Yeah.
I think having a little bit more mobility, a little bit more switchability, versatility with Maddie. She scored everywhere at Villanova, let's be clear. Whether that was in the post, whether that was on the perimeter. She can do just about anything. And I think her measurements sort of profile her more as a power forward in the W, just like her quickness too. The 4, I think, is going to be her spot. But yeah, I think part of the beauty of Maddie is that you can put her in different spots on the court and expect her to find a way to get her shot off. But I think, power forward is probably how I would envision her.
The only reason I asked that question is because in the W, being a power forward at 6'2" is it can happen. And then you have to remember who you have to guard in the power forward position on the opposite side of the ball. And they have to guard her too, true. And it's guarding 6'4" players as well that have that same agility and mobility. But I like this idea for Maddie Siegrist because, guys, she averaged 29 points, 30, something like that, in the 29, 30 point per range at Villanova. She is capable of putting the ball in. We've seen it at Dallas. And now this is an opportunity for her to really solidify a position for her amongst that starting lineup, but amongst the rotation in general. Because, yeah, the guard room, didn't even mention Isaiah James. Of course, training camp still has to happen, but there's a lot of guards coming through those doors in Dallas. So, Maddie, makes sense to scoot on over to the bigs. They'll love you just the same. Okay, this is really good. I really like these intriguing players. I know those aren't the only intriguing players. Do we have any honorable mentions? Anyone else that you're like, off the top of your mind, who else you wanted to talk about? Sabreena?
My first honorable mention was Niara Sabally. New York has going for this repeat this season, right? Niara Sabally was a huge factor in that Game 5 win over Minnesota in the WNBA Finals. And just the way the offseason has gone, they lost Kayla Thornton in the expansion draft, but Jelani Hamilton is going to be out for an extended period of time. Does this mean that New York goes in a very big direction and plays Niara Sabally in these bigger lineups? Or do they rely more on like Rebecca Gardner and Kennedy Burke and more veteran options to sort of fill in exactly what Lainey Hamilton and Thornton were doing? I think it's just a really interesting opportunity for Sabally to prove like if she is a full season player, right? If she can dazzle in more than just that individual moment, which admittedly, very big moment in Game 5 of the finals. But what does she look like as a more full-time rotation player with the Liberty?
Sabli's on a roll right now, too. She's WNBA champion and then just won the Turkish Super League with her team. And Ben, you might have to correct me on this, the Fenerbahce team out in Turkey as well. So shout out to Niara Sabally. Hopefully she'll translate all of that for the Liberty into the regular season. Ben, honorable mention on your end.
Yeah, I will go with another, I guess, an international player also who is in the EuroLeague Final Six. And I should say, Zena, it's Fenerbahce if we're going in our Turkish league pronunciation.
I knew I was wrong. Thank you. This is why I got to clear it up. Fenerbahce. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to go with someone who is playing out in Schio in Italy, a little town that I have been to and seen play, and that is Janelle Salone, the French player who is going to be
I would have put such big money on Janelle Salone being in your top 5, Ben. That's why I didn't pick her.
Yes, this was a safe bet on the board here. 23 years old, 6'3", plays multiple positions internationally, has been playing pro since she was 17 years old. Multiple WNBA teams around the league tried to sign her this offseason, and the Golden State Valkyries ended up being the team that brings her in. She is a double-digit scorer, a very good three-point shooter, and in a list of most intriguing players, we don't exactly know how she's going to translate to the WNBA and this new system that Natalie Nakase and the Golden State Valkyries want to have, but she is certainly well-positioned to play a big role. And again, she hasn't transitioned, and so, I'm not 100% sure how she's going to fit in and what they're trying to do, but if her international career is any indication, she's going to play a big role on this Golden State Valkyries team, and I think she'll be one of these rookies who, was not drafted in this year's draft, but if you told me by the end of the season that she makes an all-rookie team, I would not be surprised. In fact, I would pick that heading into the season, heading into this 2025 season. So she is the international player on my list, and as Sabreena said, this was probably the lock of the century on my list.
Okay, honorable mentions check out too. I am very intrigued, obviously, coming up on this WNBA season. And we'll see how any of these, we'll have to circle back to this show by the end of next season to see how these picks all played out. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We've got a fun game in the next block. Okay, we're going to try something out that is new here, and it's a little game. You may have heard of it. It's called Two Truths and a Lie. Sabreena, master soothsayer that she is going to give me and Ben 3 takes on this upcoming WNBA season. 2 takes that she fully believes in, and 1 that she does not. And then Ben and I will have to pick them apart to figure out what's real and what's bull. So, Sabreena, let's have them.
Okay, 3 takes. Number 1, Napheesa Collier will be the MVP of the 2025 WNBA season. Number 2, the Phoenix Mercury will miss the playoffs in 2025. And number 3, there will be NBA participation at WNBA All-Star Weekend in Indianapolis.
Ooh. Okay. After, Ben, I'm going to take that first one. After the performance that Napheesa Collier had in Unrivaled, I feel like that is absolutely possible for her to carry that over into the WNBA season and to kind of have like a revenge tour after last year. I think Sabreena absolutely believes that Nafisa Collier will be a WNBA MVP. What do you think?
I think that is definitely possible. It is a very plausible prediction to make. Yes, this is going to be the year.
I'm
of
trying to
truth.
believe if
But
these
it's not
things
about-
are
but
true or if I believe them.
Exactly. That's the difference, Ben. It's the difference. We're not trying to figure out if they're plausible or not. I think that Sabreena is taking that evidence that I just laid out, and she is thinking that is true. What do you think?
I want to. Can I digest the other picks? I mean, I think.
Okay.
I think this could be her bluff. I think this could be her bluff here
Oh,
because it is
okay,
a
let's keep
plausible
going.
prediction. But
Okay.
I think she will end up going somewhere else here.
Okay, let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling this. She says that the Phoenix Mercury are going to miss the playoffs. Now, Phoenix Mercury just got Alyssa Thomas. They have Kalani Brown now. Who else did they pick up in the offseason?
Well, that's the good question, Zena, because that is really the key to this argument, right? It is. They have Alyssa Thomas and they have Satu Sabali and they've surrounded her with Kalia
of course.
Copper, right?
Yeah.
Alyssa Thomas was on my list of most intriguing players, and it was because, she's been an MVP candidate in each of the last 3 years. She's been top 5. She's one of the most unique players in the league. And she's going to a team where Kalia Copper had a career high usage rate last year. And Satu Sabali is another first-team All-W player. And you mentioned Kalani Brown, but I would challenge listeners to try and name, more than 4 or 5 members of this year's Phoenix Mercury, because that is a
just one
difficult
more beyond
game.
the players you named,
Yeah.
honestly.
Like, I'm not we don't have to embarrass anyone on this show. But it just speaks to if one of those players gets injured, if the fit doesn't click as much, if Alyssa Thomas, her game is so unique. And how she fits with 2 other stars who also have unique games, or just have proven established games rather. So, this is a good take, Sabreena, because 8th is strong. Missed the playoffs is something has had to go wrong here. But I enjoyed this as a hot take, so I'm gonna say this is true. A take you believe in.
Okay. Last take she had was that. Oh, I'm forgetting already.
That NBA players will participate in
that's
WNBA
right.
All-Star Weekend.
This is where I feel like this is the bluff. I feel like every year this is talked about. It's been hammered on, and those players are trying to enjoy their summers. Now, where is the WNBA All-Star this year?
Is in Indianapolis.
Do we think that NBA players are going to Indianapolis for their summers?
It's a great point, Zena.
So I feel like Sabreena knows this, and I think this is her lie, and she made it. But the thing is, you're right, Ben. That would be too obvious of a lie. That'd be just so. You know what? I think she actually believes this, which is crazy. If she thinks NBA players are going to show up, we'll see. Let them call our bluff. But you might be right. She might actually not believe Nafisa Collier will be the MVP. It's too obvious. Yes.
Too
okay.
obvious.
So we're choosing the Nafisa Collier MVP is the lie. And Sabreena thinks that NBA players are going to show up to Indianapolis during the summer for All-Star. And she also believes that the Phoenix Mercury are going to miss the playoffs. Sabreena, let us know.
I really thought the Phoenix one was going to be more of a challenge. I thought we'd have more faith in the Alyssa Thomas, Satu Sabali, Kalia Copper trio. But no, you're absolutely right. I don't believe that Phoenix is going to make the playoffs. That's the take.
Okay.
However, I do believe that Nafisa Collier is going to win MVP. I don't believe NBA. I had this in my head that maybe Tyrese Halliburton would do it for Indiana. That's a thought.
Yeah, that's a good one.
They obviously wanted Caitlin and Sabreena so badly at NBA that maybe this would be their show of goodwill. But no, I don't believe it. You're right. They're not going to give up their summers to do that. Yeah.
Okay, we were thinking that you were trying to be savvy here, Sabreena, but you were, as you are, the master soothsayer. Oh, I'm so proud of myself for being able to say that. Sabreena, the master soothsayer. Guys, look at us. We're winning here. Thank you, Sabreena. I want to think about the Nafisa Collier, though, as MVP really quickly. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts? I mean, I'm thinking about her performance last year, unrivaled, continuously just bringing that in. What was your thoughts on that?
Well, I think voters, and I count myself obviously among them, so it's a little bit self-serving, really love a narrative, right? And you think about Asia Wilson coming off of her, finish in 2023 and just absolutely crushing the league in 2024. And Nafisa Collier to go through what Minnesota did during the finals in 2025, and then to have the season that she did at Unrivaled, where she wins the one-on-one championship, but then also loses before the championship, right? Like, this is very much I need to prove myself that I am the best player in the world and can win trophies in the best league in the world type of season for Nafisa Collier. And I think Minnesota is going to be very good. So that all just sort of adds together for me for the Lynx and for Nafisa Collier. Obviously, I think Caitlin Clark is going to be in the discussion. Asia Wilson is going to be in the discussion. Depending on how like Seattle performs or, what shakes out with the Liberty, I think there's a lot of other players who could make themselves part of like the first team All-W and MVP conversation. But just, again, all of the momentum that Fee has coming into this and the fact that I legitimately believe she is playing like the best player in the world right now makes me think that she's going to be the MVP this season.
Hey, I can't wait to get into MVP talks because I am wondering, and we're not going to get into
some
it today.
games before we get into MVP.
I know. But I can't wait to get in there because I am curious, and this is the preseason thought, but I'm curious if there will be a Candace Parker level, like rookie of the year, MVP caliber type of player, potentially in either
Janelle
Paige
Solana.
Yeah, Jalal Salon, right? That's who you're referring
potentially,
to here?
maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyways, all right, that's it for today. We got some good stuff coming up in this preseason moment. It's a little quiet right now, so we're going to be able to do a lot more just digging in, of course, into the Big East and Western Conference previews. It's some rivalry tracking. The WNBA came out with their rivalry weeks. I know y'all had some questions about some of those matchups. We're going to get into the true rivalries in the WNBA, some big prediction pods, and we're also going to dive deep into a few select teams, starting with the Dallas Wings this coming Friday. So y'all need to get ready. Lots of good content coming up. And if you're new here, hit that follow button wherever you're listening so you can stay up to date with us. And please come find us on YouTube. Leave a comment wherever you're listening. We read them. And if you be so kind, give us a rating. Y'all, I fought through my teeth, to make sure that we could say things clearly. Please, 5 stars. It's worth it. Okay. And it also helps new people find the show. Don't forget, as always, there's more to read and watch over at our partner, the Yahoo Sports Hub. So check it out at sports.yahoo.com/women-sports. On behalf of The Athletic, I'm Zena Cada. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to No Offseason. To hear more, be sure to like and subscribe. We drop new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.